Hello, my name is Bruce Miller, and I'm with RIMtech Consulting. And I'm here to talk briefly about our online virtual training course, SharePoint Metadata for Record-Keeping Compliance. Now, this is a vendor-neutral course, which means that it doesn't matter which of the 5 software products you're using to manage your records in SharePoint. Everything you learn in this course is equally applicable to each of the 5 products. It's a foundation course, which means that we will spend roughly half of the day, the first half, teaching you the fundamentals of EDRMS. Why? Because there's no point getting into the metadata unless you know what you're doing and why. So that's why we split it into 2. If you want to go deeper on the metadata, then there's a separate course for that, which spends the entire day on just the metadata. However, you need to have completed the fundamentals in a different course. Any other course will do. But one way or the other, we need you to have those fundamentals. So the metadata is vitally important for an EDRMS deployment. So the question that always comes up is, how much is the right amount of metadata? Too little metadata is very bad. Too much metadata is very bad. But what we've been able to accomplish with our deployments over time is an average of 14 metadata fields per business activity, which is very healthy for retrieval. But of those 14, an average of only 2.1 of those fields has to be filled out by users, which is really good. That's a great balance between retrievability, usability, and effort on the user's part. Very, very healthy balance. So we'll teach you how to do that. So another point I want to make about metadata is that it's very unique to your business. So if you're, for instance, a municipality, then most all municipalities have very, very similar activities, therefore very similar um, metadata. But if you are a business that's unique, that means all your metadata will be unique. So you need to know how to define it and how to deploy it. So here's what we'll cover in the morning. In the morning, we'll cover about half the day. We'll cover the EDRMS fundamentals, such as the SharePoint information architecture, which is where do we store our stuff in SharePoint and what libraries do we need, how many, what are they called, that kind of thing. And we'll cover the record-keeping fundamentals, which are all the concepts, methods, techniques, and terminology of electronic record keeping. We'll also dig into the numbers, which will show you how to measure the success of your project and how to prove that it's working as it should, okay? We'll also deal with the hugely important topic of case records. Case records are those driven by event-driven retention rules, and they constitute 60% or more of all your records. And the software products demand that you get it right. You have to tell the software exactly which of your records are case records or can't work properly. So that's a huge topic. And to be honest, a lot of records professionals are weak on this, and some of the software vendors are weak on that as well. So it's a real Achilles heel we got to be careful of. We're also going to teach you the 2 lethal threats to any modern EDRMS project. Each threat is a mistake. If you make it, you will destroy your project and it won't be recoverable. And it just, you never know, it might take you down with it. But the project will definitely come down. So we teach you what they are, how to avoid them. We'll talk about email, which constitutes 4/5 of all records in a modern EDRMS setting. 4/5. So it's vital that you know how to deal with email in an EDRMS. We'll talk about the roles of the key players. That means IT, RM, and the information management administrator. And we'll talk about how to automate the record keeping process. And by that, I mean that no user in any EDRMS must ever interact with records processes, worry about records, or participate in record keeping processes. It has to be fully automated or it will not work. So the automation is vital. So given all that, what do we cover in the last half of the session? Well, we look at the importance of all the metadata. Now in SharePoint, metadata are called columns. So we look at case versus document fields. What's the difference? We look at different types of metadata. We will lay out a suitable SharePoint information architecture, which, by the way, is tightly related to the retention schedule. And we're going to examine the Catalyst information governance tools, which are tools that allow you to accelerate the rate at which you deploy your information architecture in SharePoint. Now, the information architecture consists of libraries, content types, columns, and views. And the large constituent of that are columns. There are typically thousands of column mappings in a SharePoint environment. The larger your organization, the more columns you're going to have and the more column mappings that will be utilized. So quite big. And the Catalyst tools allow you to deploy that in hours or days versus years. So we'll cover those. We'll look at the behavior of libraries in SharePoint because the libraries have three modes of behavior: common, local, or shared, and we'll discuss that. Now, the need for speed. What we have found over the years is that it's very arduous to define metadata. It's a lot of work and a lot of time. And most business units don't have that kind of time. So we'll discuss ways to uh, uh, develop metadata by minimizing the amount of time you have to spend in the business unit, okay? And then we'll talk about lists because typically 20% of all columns in SharePoint are populated with a list. And did you know that there are 2 to 5 different types of lists? We'll talk about the SharePoint taxonomy, which is the managed metadata list type. And we'll look at a very powerful column called document type. And we'll close off by showing how to estimate the effort that this is all going to take, because it can take a long time. It can take months or years to define all this metadata. Nobody has months or years, so we're going to show you a very careful, well-structured, defined process to shorten this a lot, okay? So that's it. And in the in the description below, you'll find 3 links. One for a document that gives you all the details on this course, another link for the schedule of all our training courses, and a third link to register for this course. Thank you very much.